Hello CS120 and welcome to week 2. This is just going to be a short video highlighting some of the things that have changed in Windows since the time that GCF released the web pages and tutorials that you'll be using for your readings this week. So let's dig in. The first major change it's touched on in the Windows 10 feature page and has to do with Microsoft Edge. Microsoft is soon going to release a brand new version of Edge, which has been changed considerably under the hood. I actually have a Windows machine here with a pretty clean installation of Windows. The only thing I've done is installed the new Edge. We can see its icon here. And if I open this up, on the surface, it looks like the same old Edge. But under the hood, things have changed a lot. The browser engine, the part of the browser that's responsible for rendering HTML pages, has been swapped out by Microsoft. They've gotten rid of their old proprietary browser engine, one that they've worked on since the release of Windows 10, and have instead started using Chromium, the open source web engine maintained by Google. It's the same web engine that Google Chrome is built on. What Microsoft has done, though, is they've gone in and they've stripped out a lot of the Google-specific or Google-centric parts of the browser engine, the parts that report on your browsing habits, the things that are reporting back to Google about where you go and what you do when you're there. And so Microsoft is really positioning the new Edge as a privacy-centric browser, one that's going to be more respectful of you and your privacy. Another change to be aware of are the things that are going on with Cortana. Microsoft is really sort of pivoting on Cortana. They're no longer trying to compete with the Google Assistant or Amazon's Alexa or Siri. I probably shouldn't have said those things out loud. Sorry, your devices might be going crazy. But instead, they're going to try to turn Cortana into a productivity assistant. So it's going to allow you to do things like check your calendars, create or query emails, set reminders, work with your to-do app, set timers, and things like that. It's not going to try to offer integration with things like third-party music services or your connected home devices. They're really sort of scaling back on Cortana and kind of positioning it to be more of a business tool or an enterprise level tool than a consumer tool. The next set of changes I want to talk about comes under customizing the start menu. Here they talk a lot about live tiles on the start menu, and live tiles have also been deprecated. I'm going to drop some pictures into the stream here so you can see some screenshots of a future version of Windows start menu have leaked, and you'll notice that they don't have live tiles. Live tiles made a lot of sense on a phone when Microsoft was trying to push their Windows Phone software platform and compete with Android and iOS. Live tiles were a great differentiator. They were a feature that was really interesting. Turns out there was no place in the market for a third phone platform. And Microsoft's inclusion of live tiles in Windows 8 and then Windows 10 has been, I think, regarded at least as a mild mistake. And it looks like they're backing off of that. So I do expect live tiles to go away in the not too distant future. Hopefully you don't get too attached to them. Okay, under making Windows 10 feel more familiar, just want to scroll down and talk about, the page talks about using the control panel instead of the settings app. Unfortunately, we live in a world where you're still going to have to use both. There are some settings that are only available in the settings app. And there are some settings that are still only available in the control panel. Although Microsoft has introduced or migrated, I should say, more and more of those settings into the settings app, they're still not all there. There are still some things that you have to dig through the control panel to find the settings you want. So you do need both of those apps altogether, or you do need both of those apps to fully manage your system. This is unfortunately sort of an example of a problem that Microsoft has always had, which is just finishing the job. They get 80 or 90% of the way there, and then they sort of stop. And I think that's because there's a culture at Microsoft where you always want to be working on the next new thing, the next cool thing. And that means people leave projects, they move off this team or that team, and there's no one left to do the work of, say, migrating settings apps or migrating settings into the settings app. Next, I want to touch just very briefly on the Windows 10 keyboard shortcuts. I just want to say I am actually a huge fan of keyboard shortcuts. Anything you can do to keep your hands on the keyboard will actually make you more efficient and save you time. Learning a few keyboard shortcuts is great. The bad thing about keyboard shortcuts is there are a million of them, and every application has its own set as well. So what I really encourage you to do is learn, a handful of keyboard shortcuts, the ones that are actually going to save you time, that you're going to use frequently, and that just sort of makes sense for you. There are some that I think make sense for everybody. For example, copy and paste, right? If we actually expand this out, hopefully you're all familiar with Control X, Control C, Control V for for cut, copy, and paste things to and from the clipboard. Control Z for undo. That one saved my life many times. Control A to select all the text in a file. But as we scroll down this list, you'll see there is literally, there are dozens and dozens of keyboard shortcuts just here. And then if you want to talk about the Windows logo keyboard shortcuts, the list goes on. There's dozens and dozens more. So some of these are going to make more sense than others, honestly. Not all of them are going to be something you want to try to memorize. But I will tell you this. Almost everything you do in Windows, there's a keyboard shortcut to do. There's a way to do it from the keyboard. So if there's some action or task that you find yourself repeating over and over and over again, I strongly encourage you to look and see if you can't find the keyboard shortcut for performing that, and just keep your hands on the keyboard. Finally, the last thing I want to just touch on is the snipping tool. The snipping tool in Windows has actually been replaced by a new tool called Snip Sketch. I've linked to a short video that walks you through all of its features and teaches you how to use it. This is a tool you will be using in the future when I ask you to capture a screenshot of your desktop or of a program you're working in to paste into your Word document that you submit to me for grading. The snipping tool is going to be the tool of choice for that. And so that's really it for this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope you enjoy the readings that you have this week and that you learn some things from them. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me and I'll be happy to help. Until then, I'll see you in the next video.